to conduct interviews with the people of the town. During the next year, we returned to Laramie several times and conducted over 200 interviews. The player magazine is edited for these interviews, as well as journal entries for members of the company and other contacts. Company member Greg Brody.
My first interview was with Detective Sergeant King of the Laramie Police Department. At the start of the interview, he was sitting behind his desk, sitting something like this. I was born and raised here. My family is third generation. My grandparents moved here in the early 1900s. We've had basically well, my daughter makes it fourth generation. Quite a while. It's a good place to live. Some good people, lots of space. Now the towns in southern Wyoming are laid out in space because of the railroad came through. There's as far as we can go without needing to refuel and re-water. And, well, Laramie's been a major stopping point. That's why towns are spaced so far out. We're one of the largest states in the country, and the least populated.
There's so much space between people and towns here, so much time for reflection.
Rebecca Billiger, head of the theater department at the University of Wyoming.
You have a chance to be happy in your life here. I found that people here were nicer than they were in the Midwest, where I used to teach, because they were happy. They're glad the sun is shining, and it shines a lot here.
What you have is, you got your old town, traditional type ranches. Well, they've been here forever. Laramie's been a hub when it comes to their supplies and stuff like that.
Stewardship is one thing all of our ancestors taught us. I'm an Indian, rancher. If you don't take care of the land, then you ruin it and you lose your living. So you must first of all take care of your land and do everything you can to improve it.
I love it here.
Doc O'Connor, limousine driver.
You couldn't put me back in that mess out there back east. Best thing about it's the climate. The cold, the wind. They say the Wyoming wind will drive a man insane, but it don't bother me. Well, some of the times it bothers me, but most of the time it don't.
And then you got the university population.
I moved here after living in a couple of big cities.
Philip Dubois, president of the University of Wyoming.
I loved it there, but you'd have to be out of your mind to let your kids play out after dark. But here in the summertime, I let my kids play out until 11 o'clock, and I don't think twice about it.
And then you got the people who live in Laramie, basically.
I moved here from rural Texas. Zachy Salmon, Laramie resident. Now, Laramie, if you don't know a person, you definitely know someone they know. So you can only be 1 degree removed at most. And for me, I love it. I mean, I love getting to go to the grocery store because I get to visit 4 or 5 or 6 people every time I go. And I don't really mind people knowing my business. Because what is my business? I mean, my business is basically me.
I like the trains too. They don't bother me. Well, some of the times they bother me, but most of the time they don't. Even though one goes by every 13 minutes out where I live.
Doc actually lives up in Bosworth. Everyone in Laramie knows him. He's also not really a doctor.
They used to carry cattle, them trains. Now all they carry is diapers and cars.
I grew up in Cody, Wyoming.
April Silva, university student.
Laramie's better than where I grew up, I'll get that.
It's a good place to live. Good people, lots of space. Now, when the incident happened with that boy, a lot of the newspaper reporters came down. One time, some of them followed me out to the crime scene. And it was a beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous day. We were clear and crisp, and the sky was that blue that, well, you won't be able to paint it. It's just sky blue. It's just gorgeous. And the mountains in the background, a little snow on. And then there's one reporter lady, a person, who was out there, and she said,
Well, who found the boy? Who's out here anyway?
and I said, well, this is a real popular area for people to run. And mountain biking is real big out here. Horseback riding, it's just close to town. And she looked at me. She said,
Who in the hell would want to run out here?
and I was like, lady, you're missing the point. All you gotta do is turn around, look at the mountains, smell the air, listen to the birds, just take in what's around here. They were just nothing but the story. I didn't feel judged. I felt that they were stupid. I mean, they're missing the point. They're just missing the whole point.
If you would have asked me before, I would have told you. Laramie is a beautiful town. It's secluded enough that you can have your own identity. A town with a strong sense of community. Everyone knows everyone. A town with a personality that most larger cities are stripped of. But now after Matthew, I would say that Laramie is a town defined by an accident, a crime. We've become Waco. We've become Jasper. We're a noun, a definition, a sign. We might be able to get rid of that, but it will sure take a while.
Journal entries. Members of the company. Andy Paris.
Moises called saying he had an idea for his next theater project, but there was a somberness to his voice. So I asked him what it was about, and he said he wanted to do a piece about what's happening in Wyoming.
Stephen Belber.
Lee told me the company was thinking of going out to Laramie to conduct interviews and that they wanted me to come. But I'm hesitant. I have no real interest in prying into a town's unraveling.
Amanda Grani.
I've never done anything like this in my life. How do you get people to talk to you? What do you ask?
Moises Kaufman.
The company agreed that we should go to Laramie for a week and to interview people. I'm a bit afraid to take 10 people on a trip such as this. Need some safety rules. No one works alone. Everyone carries cell phones. I made some preliminary contacts with Rebecca Hilliger, Dean of the Theater Department at the University of Wyoming. She's hosting a party for us upon our arrival and has promised that she will introduce us to some potential interviewees.
I have to tell you, when I first heard you were coming here, when you first called me, I wanted to say you just kicked me in the stomach. Why are you doing this to me? But then I thought, that's stupid, you're not doing this to me. And more importantly, I thought about it, we've had so much negative closure on this whole thing, and the students really need to talk. When this first happened, they started talking and the media descended and all dialogue stopped. You know, I really love my students because they are free thinkers. And you may not like what they have to say, and you may not like their opinions because they can be very redneck, but they are honest and they're truthful. So there's an excitement here. There's a dynamic here that I never had in North Dakota or the Midwest where I used to teach because there was so much Puritanism that dictated how people looked at the world. Oftentimes they didn't have an opinion. You couldn't get them to express an opinion. And quite honestly, I'd rather have opinions that I don't like and have that dynamic in education. There's a student I think you should talk to. His name is Jedediah Schultz.
I've lived in Wyoming my whole life. My family has been here, well, for generations. Now, when it came time to go to college, my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I wanted to study theater, so I knew that if I was going to go, I was going to have to get on a scholarship. And so every year they have this competition, this Wyoming State High School competition. And I knew that if I didn't take first place in duets, that I wasn't going to get a scholarship. So I was talking to one of the professors in the theater department. I said, I need a killer scene. And he said, here you go. This is it. And it was from Angels in America. So I read it, and I knew that if I did a good enough job, I could win. So I went home and I told my parents. Now, you've got to understand, my parents come to everything. Every ball game, every hockey game, everything I've ever done. And they came into my room and they said that if I did that scene, that they weren't going to come see me in the competition. Because because they believed that it was wrong. They believed that homosexuality was wrong. And they felt that strongly about it, that they were going to come see their son do probably the most important thing he'd done in his life to that point. And I didn't know what to do. You know, I had never, ever gone against my parents' wishes. So I was nervous about it, but I decided to go ahead and do it. And all that I can remember about the competition is that when we were done, me and my scene partner, we walked up to each other and we shook hands, and there was a standing ovation. And we took first place and we won. And that's how come I can afford to be here at the university, because of that scene. It was one of the best moments of my life, and my parents were there. And to this day, that's the one thing that my parents didn't come see me do. And thinking back on it, I think, why did I do it? You know, why did I go against my parents? Because I'm not gay, so why did I do it? And, you know, I guess the only honest answer I can give is that I wanted to win. You know, it was such a good scene. It was like the best scene. Do you know Mr. Kushner? Maybe you could tell me.
Company member Greg Karate.
We arrived today at the Denver airport and drove to Laramie. The moment we passed the Wyoming border, I swear I saw a herd of buffalo. Also, I thought it was weird that the Wyoming sign said,
Wyoming, like no place on earth.
instead of Wyoming, like no place else on earth.
Company member Lee Cassidy.
I stopped at a local inn for a bite to eat, and my waitress said to me,
Hi, my name's Debbie. I was born in 1954, and Debbie Reynolds was really popular then, so yeah, there's a lot of us. But I promise I won't slap your hands if you put your elbows on the table.
Today, the company tried to explain to me, to no avail, what chicken fried steak was.
Now, are you from Wyoming, or are you just passing through?
we're just passing through.
Company member Barbara Pitts.
We arrived in Laramie tonight. Just past the Welcome to Laramie sign, population 26,687, the first thing to greet us was a Walmart. Now, in the dark, we could be on any name brand in America, you know, fast food chains, gas stations. But as we drove further into the downtown area, the building still looked like a turn-of-the-century Western town. And as we passed the University Inn, on the sign where amenities such as heated pool and cable are usually touted, it said, "Hate is not a Laramie value."
Greg Karate.
I met today with two longtime Laramie residents, Allison Mears and Marge Murray, two soldier service workers who taught me a thing or two.
Well, Laramie was like Mars growing up. Well, it was mostly rural.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. My kids all had horses.
Well, there was more land back then, you know? I mean, you could have your pet horse, your cows, your little chickens. Just like your little bit of acreage.
Yep. I could run around the house and I like together, do the housework while the kids were at school, and nobody could see me. And if they got that close,
Well, then that was their problem.
I just want to make sure I got the expression right. In your all-togethers.
well, yeah, honey, why wear clothes?
Now, how's he going to use that in his play?
So this was a big ranching town?
Oh, not just ranching. This is a big railroad town at one time. Back before they moved everything to Cheyenne and Green River and Omaha. Well, now it's just a drive-through spot for the railroad, but what was it, even in the 50s? Well, they had one big roundhouse, and they had such a shop they could build a complete engine.
They did. My mom worked there.
Your mom worked in the roundhouse?
She did. She washed engines. Her name was Minnie. We used to to smack one on the mouth, but then they just walk away. Most of them said they just say, I don't swing that way, and then whistle on about their business. Laramie is live and let live.
Well, I'm sure Marcia knows more than she was even willing to say, and we have to respect her for that.
Well, where are you going with this story?
Oh, well, we still haven't decided. When we're finished, we're going to try to bring it around to Laramie.
Well, then there are things I will tell you.
Company member Andy Paris.
Today, for the first time, I met with someone who actually knew Matthew Shepard. Trish Steger, owner of a shop in town, referred to him as Matt.
Matt used to come into my shop all the time. That's how I knew him.
It was the first time I had heard him referred to as Matt instead of Matthew. Did he go by Matt to everyone?
Well, on the 2nd of October, I get a phone call about 10 after 7.
Doc O'Connor.
It was Matthew Shepard, and he said, can you pick me up at the corner of Grant, 3rd and Grant? So anyhow, I pull up to the corner to see who? Matthew Shepard, you know. It's a little guy, about 5'2", soaking wet. I bet you 97 pounds tops. They say he weighed 110, but I wouldn't believe it. They also said he was 5'5" in the newspapers, but this man, he was really only about 5'2", maybe 5'1". So, he walks up to the window. I'm going to go in steps so you can better understand the principle of this thing. So he walks up to the window, and I say, are you Matthew Shepard? He says, yeah, I'm Matthew Shepard, but I don't want you to call me Matthew or Mr. Shepard. I don't want you to call me anything. My name is Matt, and I want you to know I am gay, and we're going to go to a gay bar. Do you have a problem with that? And I said, how you paying? The fact is, Laramie doesn't have any gay bars. For that matter, neither does Wyoming. So he was hiring me to take him down to Fort Collins, Colorado, about an hour away. That was a blunt little shit, you know what I'm saying? Always was, but I liked him because he was straightforward. Maybe gay, but straightforward. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know, how does one person ever tell about another? You really should talk to my sister Romaine. She was a very close friend of Matthew's.
We never called him Matthew, actually. Most of the time, we just called him Choo-Choo. You know, we used to call him Mac too, and then we just called him Choo-Choo. And whenever I think about Matthew, I think of his incredible beaming smile. I mean, he'd walk in and he'd just be like, he just made you feel great. And he would like scare people down in the coffee shop because he wanted to sit on the end seats and talk to me while I was working. And if someone was sitting there, he would sit there and stare at them until they left. And then he would claim a spot. So yeah, Matthew was really big into political affairs. I mean, that's all his big interest ever was watching CNN, MSNBC. Those are the only TV stations I ever saw his TV tuned into. So yeah, that was really smart in political affairs, but not so much on common sense. So he moved to Laramie to go to school.
Matthew was very shy when he first came in,
John Peacock, Matthew Shepard's academic advisor.
to the point of being somewhat mousy, I don't want to say, but this was home for him, and he made that quite clear. So his mousiness, his shyness gave way to a person that was excited about this track that he was going to embark on. He was just starting to figure out wanting to work on human rights, how he was going to do that. And when that happens, this person begins to bloom a little bit. He was beginning to say, there are things around here that I can do. There are things in this world that I can do. I can be important.
I did hear from Matthew about 48 hours before his attack. He told me he'd just joined the gay and lesbian group on campus and that he was really enjoying it, you know? I mean, they were getting ready for Pride Week and whatnot. He was really stoked about school. Yeah, I think he was really enjoying it.
And in retrospect, and I can only say this in retrospect, of course, I think that's where he was headed, you know, towards human rights. And that only adds to the irony and tragedy of all of this.
Let me tell you something else here. There's more gay people in Wyoming than meets the eye. I know for a fact. because they will kick you in your fucking ass. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. I know a lot of gay people in Wyoming. I know a lot of people, period. I've been up here some 40-odd years. You see what I'm saying? And I don't think Wyoming people give a damn one way or another. If you're gay or straight, yeah, it's what I just said. It doesn't matter. If there's 8 men and 1 woman in a Wyoming bar, which is often the case, now you stop and think, who's getting what? You see what I'm saying? Jeez, it don't take a big intelligent mind to figure that one out.
My understanding when I first came here
Catherine Conley.
was I was the first out lesbian or gay faculty member on campus, and that was in 1992, so that wasn't that long ago. They asked me at my interview what my husband did, so I came out then. Do you want a funny story? There's all these things you have to do when you're a new faculty member. So I was in my office and I noticed that this woman had called. I was expecting, it was a health insurance phone call, something like that. So I called her back and I could hear her. She's working on her keyboard, clicking away. I said, this is Kathy Connolly returning your phone call. And she said, "Oh, it's you!" And I thought, this is bizarre. And she said, I hear you're gay, I hear you are. And I said, huh? And she said, I hear you came as a couple. I want to. Not a couple, just a person. And so she was a kind of lesbian who had heard I was coming and wanted to come over and meet me immediately. And she later told me that there were other lesbians she knew that wouldn't be seen with me, that I would irreparably taint them, that just to be seen with me could be a problem.
When I came here, I knew it was going to be hard as a gay man.
Joe Slomaker.
But I kept telling myself, people should live where they want to live. And there would be times I would go down to Denver, and I would go to gay bars, and, people would tell you where you were, they'll ask you, where are you from? And I'd say, Laramie, Wyoming. And I've seen so many men there from Wyoming. So many gay men who grew up there. And they're like, this is the place where I can live. How can you live there? I had to get out. But every once in a while, there would be a guy. Oh gosh, I miss Laramie. I really love it there. It's where I want to live. And they get this starry-eyed look. And I'm like, if that's where you want to live, do it. Imagine if more gay people stayed in small towns. But it's easier said than done, of course.
Today we're moving out of our motel and heading to the Best Western.
Moises Kaufman.
My hope is that it is a better Western.
Amanda Bronick.
Today we divided up to go to different churches in the community. Moises and I were given a Baptist church. We were welcomed into the services by the Reverend himself, standing at the entrance to the chapel. This is what I remember of his sermon that night.
My dear brothers and sisters, I am here today to bring to you the word of the Lord. Amen. Now I have a simple truth that I tell to my colleagues, and I'm going to tell it to you today. The word is either sufficient or it is not. Now scientists tell me that the human history, that the world is 5 billion or 6 billion years old. After all, what's a billion years, give or take? The Bible tells me that the world, that human history is 6,000 years old. The word is either sufficient or it is not.
The sociology of religion in the West.
Stephen Lee Johnson, Unitarian minister.
Dominant religious traditions in this town. Baptist, Mormon, they're everywhere. It's not just in Salt Lake. They're all over. They're like jam on toast down here.
The Mormon Church has a bit of a different thing going on that irritates some folks.
Doug Laws, state ecclesiastical leader for the Mormon Church.
And that is that we believe that God still speaks to man. We don't believe that God said it, and some folks wrote it in the Bible. No. We believe that the prophet of the church still has the authority to receive revelation and inspiration from God.
So the spectrum would be, on the left side of the panel, so far left that I'm probably sitting by myself, is me and the Unitarian Church. And Unitarians are, by and large, humanists. Many of them are atheists. I mean, we're not even sure we're a religion. And on my right side of the spectrum, to his credit, Father Roger, Catholic priest, well established in this town, and God bless him, he did not equivocate at all when this happened. He held a vigil for Matthew that night.
I was really jolted because when we did the vigil, we wanted to have other ministers there. And we called some, but they didn't want to get involved. It was like, we're going to sit back and see which way the wind is blowing. Oh, well, that angered me immensely. And I thought, wow, what is going on here?
God has set boundaries, and it is one of our responsibilities to learn. What is it that God wants? So you study Scripture, you look to your leaders, and then you get a feel for what the bounds are. Now, once you feel what the bounds are, you can get a sense for what is out of bounds. There was a proclamation that was released on the family, and that is that a family is defined as one woman and one man and children. That is about as clear as you can state it. There is no sexual deviancy in the Mormon Church. No leniency. We simply believe that it is out of bounds.
I warn you, you will be mocked. You will be ridiculed for the singularity of your faith. But let the Bible be your guide. It's in there. It's all in there.
The Christian pastors, and many of the conservative ones, were silent on this. Conservative Christians use the Bible to tell the entire world, it says here in the Bible. And many Americans believe, and they do, that the Bible is the Word of God. And how are you going to fight that?
Now, I am a biblicist, which means that the Bible doesn't need me to be true. The Bible is true whether I believe it or not. The Word is either sufficient or it is not.
I arrived in Laramie on September 15th. I looked around, tumbleweed, cement factory, and I said, what the hell am I doing in Wyoming? 3 weeks later, I found out what the hell I'm doing in Wyoming.
Today I had breakfast with a university student named Subhana Ullah. She is an Islamic feminist who likes to do things her own way.
I've lived in Laramie since I was 4? Yeah. My parents are from Bangladesh. 2 years ago, because I'm Muslim, I decided to start wearing a scarf. That's really changed my life in Laramie. Yeah. Like, people will say things to me like, why do you have to wear that thing on your head? And it's like, when I go to the grocery store, I'm not looking to give people Islam 101, you know what I mean? So, I'll be like, well, it's part of my religion, and they'll be like, and this is the worst part, because they'll be like, I know it's a part of your religion, but why? And it's, how am I supposed to go into the whole doctrine of physical modesty and my own spiritual relationship with the Lord standing there with my pop and chicks? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's so unreal to me that, yeah, a group from New York is writing a play about Laramie, and then I was picturing it, like, you're going to be on stage in New York, and you're going to be acting like you're us. That's so weird.
I know, I really understand it must have just been terrible.
Oh, yes. I think we are all hoping this just goes away.
Well, do you think maybe I could call back and speak with your husband just briefly?
Well, I suppose you can call back tonight at 9.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Today, Barbara and I went to the Fireside Bar, which is the last place Matthew was seen in public.
The Fireside definitely feels like a college bar, with a couple of pool tables and a stage area for karaoke night. Still, the few regulars in the late afternoon were college bar.
First person we spoke to was Matt Nichols, the owner.
My great-grandfather moved here in 1862. Laramie's first opera house was called Old Blueford. And in 1870, Louisa Grandma Swain passed the first woman's ballot in any free election in the world. And that's why Wyoming is the equality state. So what I want to do is reestablish my bar business as an Old Bluefront Opera House and Good Time Emporium. You know, I want to have a restaurant, I want to have a gift shop, I want to have a pool hall, you know, I want to do all this shit, you know, every nice ladies' night. And so Fireside is the first step toward the Old Bluefront Opera House and Good Time Emporium.
Uh-huh. So what about the night Matthew Shepherd was here?
We had karaoke that night. There were maybe about 20 or 30 people in the bar. Matthew Shepherd came in. He was sitting right where you're sitting, actually, just hanging out. If you want to talk to somebody, you need to talk to Matt Keller. He was the kid that was bartending that night. You have to meet him. His character speaks for itself. Hey, is Galloway bartending tonight?
Okay, I'm gonna make this brief, quick, get it over with, but it will be everything. Factual, just the facts. Here we go. 10 o'clock, I clock in, usual time, Tuesday nights, 10:30. Matthew Shepherd shows up, alone, sits down, orders a Heineken.
Phil LeBrie, friend of Matthew Shepherd.
Matt liked to drink Heineken and nothing else. Heineken. He made him pay $9.50 for a 6-pack. Yep. It was about the same beer.
So, what can I tell you about Matt? If you had 100 customers like him, it'd be the most perfect bar I've ever been in, okay? And nothing to do with sexual orientation. Absolute mannerisms, politeness, intelligence, taking care of me, as in tips, everything. Dressed nice, clean cut. Some people, you just know. Sits down, please, thank you. Offers intellect, you know, within their vocabulary. So he kicks it there. Didn't seem to have any worries or like he was looking for anyone. Just enjoy his drink and the company around. Now, approximately 11:45, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson came in. I didn't know their names then, but they're the accused, the perps, the accused. They walked in just very stone-faced, you know, dirty, grungy, rude, gimme, that type of thing. They walked up to the bar, and as you know, paid for a pitcher with dimes and quarters. Which I mean is something you just don't forget. You don't forget that. $5.50 in dimes and quarters, that's a freaking nightmare. Now, Henderson and McKinney, they didn't seem intoxicated at all. They came in, ordered a beer, took the picture with the back there to the pool room and kept themselves. Next thing I knew, probably a half hour later, they were kind of walking around, no beer. And I remember thinking to myself that I'm not going to ask them if they want another one. Because obviously they just paid for a pitcher with dimes and quarters. I have a real good feeling they don't have any more money.
Romaine Patterson.
Money meant nothing to Matthew. Because he came from a lot of it. He would hand over his wallet in 2 seconds. Because money meant nothing. His shoes might have meant something. They could say it was a robbery, but I don't believe it for even an iota of a second.
Then, a few moments later, I looked over and Aaron and Russell had been talking to Matthew Shepherd.
Aaron said that some guy came to him, said that he was gay, and he wanted to get with him and Russ.
Kristen Price, girlfriend of Aaron McKinney.
And
that he came on to them, I absolutely, positively disbelieve and refute that statement, 100%. Refute it. I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. 1, character reference. Why would he approach them? Why them? He wasn't approaching anybody else in the bar. They say he's gay, he's a flaming gay, he's going to come on to people like that? Bullshit. He didn't come on to me, hello? He came on to them? I don't believe it. 2, territorialism is the word I'll use for this, and that's the fact that Matt was sitting in there, in his area. Upon their first interaction, they were in Matt's area. In the area Matt had been seen all night. So who approached who by that?
Matthew never had a problem talking to anyone. I mean, he didn't have a problem striking up a conversation with anybody. I mean, if somebody just came up to him and started talking, he'd just be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Because he never had a problem talking to anybody.
Matt did feel lonely a lot of times. Me knowing that, and knowing how gullible he would be, he would have walked right into it. The fact that he was at the bar alone, without any friends, made him that much more vulnerable.
So the only thing is, and this is what I'm testifying to because basically I'm a key eyewitness in this case. Basically, I saw Matthew leave. I saw 2 individuals leave with Matthew. I didn't see their faces, but I saw the back of their heads. At the same time, Aaron and Ross were no longer around. You do the math.
I actually think the DJ was the last one to speak to him on the way out. Gave him a cigarette or something. His name is Shad.
I was the last person that saw Matt before he left the fireside. I was just bullshitting around with my shit, and he stopped me. Well, I stopped him, actually. He's like, hey, Shadow, da-da-da, and I was like, what, man? You getting ready to leave? And he's like, yeah, man, and this and that. And you seen the guys with him, and they stood outside. And you could see it. He was looking over at them, and they were looking back at him. And anyway, I sat and talked to Matt for at least a good 10 minutes. And then you notice the guys with him, you notice them start to get worried. You know, like anxious to leave and shit. So anyway, when they took off, I seen it. When they took off, it was in a black truck. It was a small truck. And the 3 of them sat up front. And Matt sat in the middle. And I didn't think anything of it. You know, I didn't think them guys were going to be like that.
A friend of Aaron McKay.
Oh, yeah, I've known Aaron a long time. I liked Aaron a lot. Aaron was a good kid. That's why I was shocked when I heard this. Because I know he was living out far. At his trailer house is what he told me with his girl. They just started dating last summer. They must have gotten pregnant as soon as they started dating, you know, because they had a kid. He was only 21 years old and he was running around with a kid. That's just the kind of guy Aaron was, you know, like always dressed in big clothes. Tommy Hilfiger, Polo, Gucci. But at the time I knew him, he was just a young kid trying to, you know, act tough, act cool. But you could get in his face about it, he would back down. Like he was some kind of scared kid.
Sherry Agenson.
Russell was just so sweet. He was the one who was the Eagle Scout. I mean, his whole personality was just quiet and sweet. I worked with him at the Chubb wagon, I remember, and he got totally drunk out of his mind. I mean, we were all pretty much just party time. And he wasn't belligerent. His personality didn't change, he didn't change. He was the same little meek Russell. I remember him asking, when you get a chance, Sherry, can I have a dance? Of course, we never did get around to doing that, but now all I want to do is shake him, you know? What were you thinking? What in the hell were you
visitors. That place has become a pilgrimage site. Clearly, it's a very powerful, personal experience to go out there. So stark and so empty, and you can't help but think of Matthew up there for 18 hours in nearly freezing temperatures with that view up there, isolated, and the God, my God, why have you forsaken me, comes to mind.
Company member Greg Brody.
Phil Bree, a friend of Matthew's, took us up to the fence this morning. I broke down the minute that I touched it. I feel such a strong kinship with this young man. On the way back, I made sure that no one saw me crying.
Lee Klodakowski.
Greg was crying on the way back. I felt the same way, but I couldn't bring myself to tears. I have an interview this afternoon with the boy who found Matthew at the fence and the fireplace. I don't think I'm up for today. I'll see if someone else can do it.
Well, I took off on my bike around 5 p.m. on Wednesday from my door. Went up to the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with the area, so on my way back down, I was just sort of picking the way to go, which now just makes me think that God wanted me to find him, because there was no way that I was just going to go that way. So anyways, I was in some deep-ass sand, and I wanted to turn around, but for some reason, I kept going. And there was this rock on the ground, and I drilled it, and I just went right over the handlebars, and they ended up on the ground. So as I was picking myself up and dusting myself off, I noticed something which ended up to be Matt. You know, I didn't think anything of it at first. I just kind of thought it was a scarecrow. You know, I thought, Halloween's coming up. Just thought it was a Halloween gag. So anyways, I took my bike around the fence. It was a bow-tie fence. And I got closer to him, and that's when I noticed hair. And that was a major key for me, realizing it was a human being, was seeing his hair, because I still thought it was a dummy. You know, I even noticed the chest moving up and down, and I still thought it was a dummy, you know? But seeing his hair, well, I knew it was a human being. So I just ran to the nearest house, took off, and ran as fast as I could, and I called the police.
I responded to the call.
Officer Reggie Flutie.
At first, the only thing I seen was partially somebody's feet, so I got out of my vehicle and I raced over. I seen what appeared to be a 13 or 14-year-old boy, because he was so tiny, lying on the ground, tied to the fence. I did the best I could. The gentleman that was lying on the ground, Matthew Shepard, he had dry blood all over his head, dry blood underneath him, and he was barely breathing. He was doing the best he could. Yeah, he had a real harsh head wound, and I went to go open his mouth for him, help him breathe, and I couldn't get his mouth open. His mouth wouldn't open for me. He was covered in, like I said, partially dry blood. The only place where he did not have any blood on his face was what appeared to be where he had been crying out his face. His head was distorted, it did not look normal. Looked as if he had a real harsh head wound.
I was working in the emergency room the night Matthew Shepard was brought in, and it had been a long time since any of us could remember seeing a patient in that condition. Those of us who have worked in big city hospitals have seen this, but not all of us have worked in big city hospitals, and it's just not something you expect here. You expect to see these injuries from a car going down a hill at 80 miles an hour. You expect these gross injuries from something like that, but for these injuries to be inflicted by another person, the ambulance report said that it was a beating, so we knew.
There was nothing I could do. If there was anything I could have done to help him, I would have done it. But there was nothing. And I was just screaming at him at the top of my lungs, like, "Hey, wake up! Hello!" But he didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't do anything.
His hands were thumbs out in what we call a cuffing position, the way you handcuff people. He was bound with a real thin black rope, about 4 inches up off the ground around the pole. His shoes were missing. He was tied really tight, so I got my boot knife and I tried to get it between the rope and Matthew's wrist, but I had to be extremely careful not to harm Matthew any further.
And your first thought is, well, certainly you would like to think that it's somebody from out of town who comes through and beats somebody. I mean, stuff like this happens. Shit happens, and it happens in Laramie. But if there's someone who's been beaten repeatedly, that is certainly something that offends us. I think that's a good word. It offends us.
He was tied so tight. I finally got my knife through there. I'm sorry. I rolled him over to his left side, and when we did that, he quit breathing, so I immediately put him back on his back, and that was just enough of an adjustment for me to cut him free there. I seen the EMS unit trying to get to the location. When the ambulance got there, put a neck collar on him, placed him on the backboard, and scooted him from underneath the fence. Then Rob drove the ambulance to Allen's Hospital emergency room.
Now, the strange thing is, 20 minutes before Matthew was brought in, Aaron was brought in by his girlfriend. He must have gotten into a fight later on that night or something. So there I am, working on Aaron, and then Matthew's brought in. Now, at this point, I didn't know that there was a connection at all. So there's Aaron in one room of the ER, and Matthew in another room, just 2 doors down. Now, when we first saw Matthew, we knew that his care was beyond our capabilities. So we called the neurosurgeon at Hoosier Valley. He was on the road in now in 15 minutes, I think.
They showed me a picture. Days later, I saw a picture of Matthew. I would have never recognized him.
And then 2 days later, I found out the connection. And I was very struck. These were 2 kids. They were both kids, and they were both my patients. I had taken care of both of them, of both of their bodies. And for a brief moment, I wondered if this was how God feels when he looks down at us. How we are all his kids. Our bodies, our souls. And I felt a great deal of compassion for both of them.
All that was mentioned was that there was a man, Laramie man, beaten out on the prairie, basically. Later that evening, they mentioned his name, and it was like, I can't. That's not the Matthew Shepard I know. That's not my student. That's not this person that I've been meeting with.
I was in the coffee shop,
Romaine Patterson.
and a friend pulled me aside and he said, I don't know much, but they say there's been a young man who's been beaten in Laramie. And they say his name was Matthew Shepard. And he said to me, do you think this could be our Matthew? And I said to him, well, sure. It sounds like it could be our Matthew. So I called up my sister Trish, and I said, tell me anything you know. I need to know anything you know, because I don't know anything.
So I'm talking to my sister on the phone, and that's when the whole story came up on Channel 5 News. And it's just like, boom.
More and more news reports kept coming out. Mentioned his name, his age, his description. And it's like, oh my God.
And I felt sick to my stomach. Just instantly sick to my stomach. And I had to tell Romaine, yes, it was Matthew. It was your friend.
Well, I'll tell you what's overwhelming.
Matt Galloway.
Friday morning, I first find out about it. I go to class, walk out, boom. There it is, in the brain crack. So immediately, I drive to the nearest newsstand, buy a Laramie Boomerang, because I want more details. Buy that, go home. Before I can even open the paper, my boss calls me. He says,
Did you hear about what happened?
I'm like, yeah?
Was he in the bar Tuesday night?
I go, yes, he was.
You need to get down to the bar right now. We need to talk about this. We need to discuss what's going to go on.
At this point, I was starting to get upset. But still, the severity wasn't out yet.
It was Thursday afternoon.
Rulon Stacy at Poudre Valley Hospital.
I got a call. We just got a kid in from Wyoming, and it looks like he may be the victim of a hate crime. We also have news reporters out here asking questions. And so we agreed that we needed one spokesperson. As CEO, I'll do that, and we'll try to gather all the information that we can.
That night, I was watching the 10 o'clock news. They were talking about the nature and the seriousness of it.
So I'm on the phone with Mickelson, and he's like,
We need to go to the arraignment, and we need to identify these guys and make sure that they were in the bar.
so we go to the arraignment.
Our focus today turns to Laramie, Wyoming, and the Laramie County Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being charged for the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard, a gay University of Wyoming student.
The arraignment was on Friday, right around lunchtime. And I said, I'm just going. So I took off. It's just down the street. So I walked a few blocks and I went. Has anybody told you about the arraignment? There were probably about 100 people from town and probably as many news media at that point. Not more of the details had come out. The fact that the perpetrators were kids themselves, local kids, who everyone who's from around here has some connection to. And what everyone was really, I think, waiting on pins and needles for what would happen when the perpetrators walked in. And what happened? There's 200 people in the room at this point. They walk in and they're complete orange jumpsuits and shackles, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was incredibly solemn. I mean, lots of people were teary at this point. Then the judge came in and did a reading. There was a reading of the evidence that the prosecution has. It's just it's a statement of facts. And the reading of the facts was,
the essential facts show that the defendants, Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson, met Matthew Shepard at the fireside bar. And after Mr. Shepard confided he was gay, the subjects deceived Mr. Shepard into leaving with them in their pickup to a remote area. Upon arrival at said area, the defendants tied Mr. Shepard to a buck fence, robbed him, tortured him, and beat him. The subjects were later contacted by members of the Laramie Police Department, who noticed inside the cab of the pickup a credit card belonging to the victim, as well as a pair of black patent leather shoes.
And I don't think there was a single person left in that courtroom that wasn't crying by the end of it. I mean, it lasted 5 minutes, but it just kept getting more and more horrific, ending with,
They left the victim begging for his life.
Sergeant King, how could this happen? I just think a lot of people don't really understand. And even I don't really understand how someone could do something like this. We have one of the most vocal populations of gay people in the country. And it's pretty much live and let live.
Laramie resident, Jeffrey Long.
My secret hope is that they were from somewhere else, that then you can create that sort of distance. We don't grow children like that here in America. Well, it's pretty obvious we do grow children like that here in America.
So that was the arraignment, and my response was pretty catatonic. You know, not sleeping, not eating. Don't leave me alone right now.
More and more news reports kept coming out about the sheer brutality, motivations, how this happened. And then, quite frankly, the media descended, and we didn't have any time to reflect on it.
Laramie, Wyoming, often called the Gem City of the Plains, is now at the eye of the storm.
Aaron James Henderson and Russell Arthur McKinney came from the poor side of town.
As a gay college student lay hospitalized in critical condition after a severe beating,
People would like to live what happened to Matthew as an exception to the rule, but it is an extreme burden of what happens in our schools on a daily basis.
it's a tough business, as Matt Shepard knew, and as his friends all know, to be gay in cowboy country.
It was huge. Yeah, it was herds, and we're talking hundreds of reporters, which really puts a dent in this town's population. There were reporters everywhere, news trucks all over campus, everywhere in town. And we weren't ready for that type of attention. We weren't ready for that type of exposure.
Tiffany Edwards, local reporter.
These people are predators! I mean, this one journalist even followed the judge into the bathroom. It was like asking him questions. And when the judge was like, "Excuse me, can I please have some privacy?" the journalist was offended that he asked for privacy. This is not how journalism started, like the Gutenberg Press, you know.
I'll tell you what, when hard copy came to take me, I take them at the exact same time. I heard a word I ever said on tape, so if they ever do anything funny, they better watch their fucking ass.
Wyoming Governor Jim Garringer, a first-term Republican up for re-election.
I was outraged and sickened by the heinous crimes committed against Matthew Shepard. I extend my heartfelt sympathies to the family.
Governor, you haven't pushed hate crime legislation in the past.
motivated by hate.
You got the beginnings of the news story, and they have the graphics, the background, and they got murder in Wyoming. And Wyoming's dripping red, like it's got blood on it or something. And it's like, what is this? Well, this is sensationalism. And we're here going, wait a minute. We had the guys in jail in less than a day. I think it's pretty damn good.
And for us to be more or less maligned,
Eileen and Gil Angley.
that we're not a good community and that the majority of people here are good people.
You get bad apples every once in a while. And I think that the gay community took this as an advantage. Said this was a good time for us to exploit this.
Bill McKinney, father of one of the accused.
Had this been a heterosexual these two boys decided to take out and rob, this would have never made the national news. Now my son is guilty before he's even had a trial.
Look, I do think the media has made people accountable. Because it made people think. Because people are sitting in their homes, listening to CNN, watching Jam Rabbit, going, Jesus Christ, well, that's not how it is here. Well, how is it here?
Matthew Shepard medical update at 3 p.m. Saturday, October 10th.
By this point, I looked out, and where used to be 2 or 3 reporters, must have been 10 or 15 still photographers, another 20 or 30 reporters, and 10 video cameras. The parents had just arrived. I barely introduced myself to them. I looked out there and I thought, my gosh, what am I going to do? Matthew Shepard arrived in critical condition approximately 9 p.m. October 7th. When he arrived, he was unresponsive and breathing support was being provided. Matthew's major injuries upon arrival consisted of hypothermia and a fracture from behind his head to just in front of the right ear. This has caused bleeding in the brain as well as pressure on the brain. There are also several lacerations on his head, face, and neck. Matthew's temperature has fluctuated in the past 24 hours, ranging from 98 to 106 degrees. We've had difficulty controlling his temperature. The parents arrived at 7 p.m. October 9th and are now at his bedside. The following is a statement from them. The family would like to thank the American public for their kind thoughts and prayers for Matthew and their fond wishes for his speedy recovery. We appreciate everyone's prayer and goodwill and know that they are something that Matthew would appreciate as well. Family also has special requests for the members of the media. Matthew is very much in need of his family right now, and they ask that the media please respect their privacy as well as Matthew's, so they can focus all of their efforts, thoughts, and love on their son. Thank you very much.
Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson both pled not guilty to their charges. Their girlfriends, Kristen Price and Chastity Casey, also pled not guilty after being charged as accessories after the fact. On our next trip, we spoke with Chief Investigating Officer on the case, Detective Rob McGrew of the Albany County Sheriff's Department.
I think the thing that bothered me the most was when I went down to Puget Valley, where Matthew was, and the thing that bothered me the most was seeing him, touching him. As a homicide detective, you look at bodies, but this young man is sitting there, fighting for his life, trying to make it. I wanted it so bad to look, you know?
I keep seeing that picture in my head. And I found
And Eric Trifles.
and it's not pleasant whatsoever. You know, I don't want it to be there. I just want to Because the biggest thing for me has been seeing that picture in my head. And it's kind of amazing to me that I happen to be the one to find it. Because the biggest question with me, like with my religion, has been, why did God want me to find him?
I know how to take care of myself, and I was irrationally terrified.
Catherine Conley.
So what that means is not letting my 12-year-old son walk the streets, seeing a truck do a U-turn and thinking it's coming after me, having to stop because I'm shaking so bad. And in fact, the pickup truck did not come after me, but my reaction was to have my heart in my mouth.
Ultimately, no matter how you dice it, I did have an opportunity.
Matt Galloway.
If I had amazing hindsight of 2020 to have stopped what occurred. And I keep thinking, I should have noticed. These guys should have been talking to this guy. I should have not had my head down when I was washing dishes for those 20 seconds. Things I could have done. What the hell was I thinking?
So you do a lot of study. Spend hours and hours and hours. You study and study and study. You talk to the officers, make sure they understand. You talk to your victims again, and then it just always comes back to, I get this flash of seeing that. I wanted it so tight that there was no way that they were going to get out of this.
Another thing that happened when I got to the fence,
Reggie Flutie.
there was just such an overwhelming amount of blood, you know, and we tried to wear protective gloves. We got a cheap sheriff at the time, you got a shit gloves, you know. So you put them on, and they keep breaking until finally you're just out of gloves. So you think, okay, don't hesitate. You know, that's what your mind tells you. Don't hesitate, keep moving, try to find an airway and help Matthew. That's just what you do, you know.
The thing I wasn't telling you before is that Reggie is my daughter.
Marge Murray.
And when she first told me she wanted to be a police officer, well, I thought there was not a better choice for her. She could handle whatever came her way.
About a day and a half later, the hospital called. They told me Matthew had HIV. They said he'd been exposed and he had a bad exposure. You see, because I've been building a lean-to for my llamas, and so my hand just had a bunch of open cuts on it. So I was kind of screwed, you know, and think, oh shoot, you know.
Would you like to talk about losing sleep?
So I said to the doctor, okay, what do we do? And he said, get up here. So I got up there and I started the ATZ drug immediately.
Now they tell me that's medication that if it's administered 36 hours after you've been exposed, it can maybe stop her getting the disease.
That is a mean, nasty medicine. Mean. I've lost 10 pounds and a lot of my hair. Yeah.
Quite frankly, I wanted to lash out at somebody. Not at Matthew, please understand. Not one of us was mad at Matthew. But we maybe wanted to squeeze McKinney's head off. And I think about Henderson. And you know, two absolutely human beings cause so much grief for so many people. It has been terrible for my whole family, but mostly for her and her kids.
I think you brought home my girls what their mom does for a living.
Oh, Reggie, you know what I'm going to tell you now.
And you know my parents, well, they both said the same damn thing.
You're quitting this damn job.
And it's just a parent thing, you know. They're terribly proud of you, whether you're handling a drunk or handling a case like this. It's just, they don't want you getting hurt.
Like I said, there's a right way, a wrong way, and then there's Reggie's way.
So finally I said, oh, for God's sakes, lighten up, Francis. You are so stubborn. They say I'm stubborn, but I don't think I am. I'm like, okay, I've heard your opinion, now here's mine. I'm 39 years old, you know, what are they going to do, spank me?
Reggie, don't give me any ideas.
You look pretty funny, you know, what can they say?
I just hope she doesn't go before me. I just couldn't handle that.
University of Wyoming President Philip Dubois.
Now, this was a young person who read my statement on the Denver Post story, and they wrote an email to me directly, and they said, "You and the stray people of Laramie and Wyoming are guilty of the beating of Matthew Shepard, just as the Germans are guilty of the deaths of the Gypsies
have taught your straight children to hate their gay and lesbian brothers and sisters unless and until you acknowledge that the beating of Matthew Shepard was not just some random occurrence, not just the act of some random crazies. You have Matthew Shepard's blood on your hands.
And I just can't begin to tell you what that does to you. You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know what this has done to me, and to my family, and to my community.
That first week alone, vigils for Matthew Shepard were held in Laramie, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Soon after, in Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Nashville, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, and Portland, Maine, among others. In Los Angeles, 5,000 people gathered. And in New York City, a political rally ended in civil disobedience and hundreds of arrests. And the Poudre Valley Hospital website received close to 1 million visitors from across the country and around the world, all expressing hope for Matthew's recovery. Matthew Shepard Medical Update, 9 a.m., Sunday, October 11th.
As of today, Matthew remains in critical condition. The family again asked me to express their wishes that the media please keep to themselves. The family also thank the American public for their kind thoughts and concern for Matthew.
There are certain things when I sit in church,
Jedediah Schultz.
and the Reverend will tell you flat out that he doesn't agree with homosexuality, and I don't know, I think I'm still going through changes, and I don't know if I know enough to make a decision that says that homosexuality is right, especially when you've been raised your whole life to believe that it's wrong. And right now I would say that I don't agree with it. Yeah, that I don't agree with it, but maybe that's just because I couldn't do it. And speaking in religious terms, I don't think that's how God intended it. But I don't hate homosexuals or anything like that. I'm not going to persecute them or anything. Like, that's not going to be getting in between me and the other person at all.
Well, it's preached in school that being gay is okay and yada, yada, yada.
Conrad Miller.
And if my kids asked me, I'd set them down and I'd say, well, this is what gay people do. This is what animals do. This is the life, this is the lifestyle. And I tell them, this is why I believe it's wrong.
There's more gay people around
And it doesn't bother anybody because most of them that are gay or lesbian, they know damn well who to talk to. If you step out of line, you're asking for it. You know, some folks are saying he may pass out. Now, I'm not excusing what they did, but it did make me feel better to know that it was partially Matthew Shepard's fault, and partially the guys that did it. You know, maybe it's 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned for my safety.
Zachy Salmon.
And I think it's because somewhere inside, deep down, we all know that it can happen to any of us at any time. I mean, I'd be afraid to walk down the street and show any sort of affection for my partner. You just don't do that here in Laramie.
There's this whole idea. You leave me alone, I leave you alone.
Jonas Slominger.
And it's even in some of the Western literature too, you know, live and let live. That's such crap. I tell my friends that. Even my gay friends bring it up sometimes. I say, that is crap, you know? Basically, what it boils down to is, if I would tell you that I'm a fag, you won't beat the crap out of me. What's good about that? That's a great philosophy.
We went to the candle vigil,
Zugada Ula.
and it felt so good to be with people who felt like shit. I kept thinking, I don't deserve to feel this bad, you know? And then somebody got up there and he said, blah, 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 blah. And then he said, I'm saying it wrong, but basically he said, come on guys, let's show the world that Laramie is not this kind of town. But it is that kind of town. If it wasn't this kind of town, why did this happen here? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lie. Because it happened here. So how could it not be a town where this kind of thing happens? Like, that's just like looking at an Escher painting and getting all confused. Like, that's just totally like circular logic. Like, how can you even say that? We have to mourn this. And we have to be sad that we live in a city, a state, a country where shit like this happens. And these are people trying to distance themselves from this crime. And we need to own this crime. I feel everybody needs to own it. We are like this. We are like this. We are like this.
I was at the fireside bar one afternoon, and I ran into two friends of Aaron McKinney, Shannon and Jen. You knew Aaron well, right?
Yeah, we both did. Look, when I first heard about this, I thought it was really, really awful. I don't know whether Aaron was fucked up or if he was coming down, but Matthew had money. I mean, shit, he had better clothes than me. Matt was a little rich bitch.
You shouldn't call him rich bitch, though. That's not right.
Look, I'm not saying he was a bad guy, you know. He was just in the wrong place, at the wrong time, said the wrong things. And, you know, there were times where I was fucked up on meth and I thought about going out and robbing, but, I mean, I never did it, but, you know, it was there. It's easy money.
Aaron's done that thing before. They both have. I mean, I remember one time they went to Cheyenne to go do it and came back with like $300. I don't know if they particularly target gay people, but I do know that some of them looked like they were, you know, that they could outnumber or overpower. What's fair game?
sure he knew other gay people. He used to work up at the KFC, and there were a couple of people up there that yeah. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. You know, half the people I know in Laramie are gay.
What would you guys say to Aaron if you saw him right now?
First of all, I'd probably ask him if he'd ever do any more tweeting.
Man, if I could see her in there, I'd be like, man, why'd you have to fuck up like that, you know? I probably just want to make sure he's doing okay. I'm sure he is, though. I probably just want to like hang out with him.
Maybe smoke a bowl with him.
I bet he wants one so bad.
You guys both went to Laramie High?
Yeah, can't you tell? We're a product of our society.
On a day which is traditionally given over to nothing more profound than collegiate exuberance and the fortunes of the University of Wyoming football team, this city on the high plains had a different kind of homecoming Saturday as many searched their souls in the wake of a vicious, apparent anti-gay hate crime.
University President Philip Dubois.
Now, this was homecoming weekend, and there were a lot of people in town, and there was a large parade scheduled. And the students had organized a tag on the back of it, you know, behind the banner supporting Matthew Shepard. And everyone was wearing armbands that the students had created.
And I live in the center of town.
Harry Woods.
In my apartment, I have windows facing two opposite streets. One goes north and one goes south. And that was exactly the homecoming parade route. Now, on the day of the parade, I had a cast on my leg because of the fall. And I was very disappointed because I really wanted to walk with people marching for Matthew Shepard. But I couldn't. So I watched from my window. And it was just, I'm 52 years old and I'm gay. And I've lived here many years and I've seen a lot. But I was very moved when I saw the tag at the end of the homecoming. About 100 people were walking behind the banner for Matthew Shepard. So the parade went down the block to make a U-turn to come up the other side. And I crossed over to the other side of my window to wait for it to come south down the street.
I was right up front where they were holding the banner for Matthew. And let me tell you, I've never had goosebumps so long in my life. It was incredible. A mass of people, families, mothers holding their 6-year-old kids, tying these armbands around these 6-year-old kids and explaining why they should wear an armband. It was incredible. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life.
Well, after about 10 minutes went by, sure enough, here comes the parade down the street. And I saw the most incredible thing. As the parade came down the street, the number of people marching for Matthew Shepard had grown 5 times. There were at least 500 people walking for Matthew. 500 people, can you imagine? And the tag at the end was greater than the entire parade. And people kept joining in. And you know what? I started to cry. Tears were streaming down my face. And I thought, oh, thank God I got to see this in my lifetime. And my second thought was, thank you, Matthew.
I haven't been all that involved per se. My husband's a highway patrolman, so that's really the only way I knew about it. When I first heard about it, I just thought it was horrible. Just Shepard as a saint, trying to make him some kind of a martyr. And I don't think he was. I don't think he was that pure. Now, I didn't know him or anything, but there's just so many things that have come out about him, scary things, like him spread AIDS and a couple other things. And that's just the kind of person he was. He was just a barfly, And I think he pushed himself around. I think he's wanted it. Everybody's got problems, but why they exemplify him, I don't know. What's the difference if you're gay? Hate crime's a hate crime. If you murder somebody, you hate them. Doesn't matter if you're gay or a prostitute. I don't understand. I do not understand.
This is one of our last days on our second trip to Laramie. Greg and I have been conducting these non-stop and we are exhausted.
You're going to meet Father Roger here at 7:30 a.m. I was hoping we could skip it all together, but we have to see it through to the end. So here we go, 7:30 a.m. Two queers and a Catholic priest.
Matthew Shepard has served us well. You realize that? He has served us well. But now, I don't mean to condemn him to perfection, but I cannot mention anyone who has done more for this community than Matthew Shepard. Now, I don't mean to sound a big, bold guy, no fear. I was scared. I had been very vocal in the community what was happening. And I thought, why don't we call the bishop and ask him permission to do the vigil? And I was like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. His permission doesn't make it correct. You realize that? I mean, I've got nothing against the bishops, but what's correct is correct. Now, you people are here on a search stone, and I will do this. I will trust that if you tell it right, I will be a happy preacher. Now, it is important that you do that. Don't make matters worse. You think Matthew was tortured? But Matthew was tortured. If you called a fag, or if you called a les, or a dyke, yeah, dyke. That too is violence. You realize that? Now, if you use anything that I have said to somehow cultivate that violence, to make it worse, I will regret it immensely. I will regret it immensely. Now, you just need to say that what is true. You know what is true.
Thank you for saying that, Father.
You just need to do what is correct.
Yeah, I was in there. I was in jail with Aaron in December. Got thrown in over Christmas. Assault, battery, 2 counts. I don't want to talk about it. But we were sitting there, eating our Christmas dinner, trying to eat my stuffing, my motherfucking bread, my little roll and whatnot. And I asked him, I was like, tell me something, Mom. Tell me, please. I was like, hold on, I'm trying to think how I worded this. I was like, why would you kill a faggot if you're going to be destined to be a faggot later? You know? I mean, think about it. He's either going to get humped a lot or he's going to die. So why would you do that? I mean, think about that. I don't understand that. You know what he told me? Honest to God, this is what he said. He goes, he tried to grab my dick. That's what he said, man. Jeez, he didn't even act like he was nothing. He's dumb, dog. Now I heard they were auctioning those boys off up there in the Maxport, you know, where the killers go. I heard that when they found out Aaron was coming to prison, they were auctioning those boys off. I want him. I'll put aside 5, 6, 7 cartons of cigarettes. Auction his ass off. I'd be scared to go to prison if I was those boys.
Hello?
Reverend,
Yes. Hello?
I believe your wife told you a bit about why I'm contacting you.
Yes, she did, and quite frankly, I don't know that I really want to talk to anyone about any of this situation. I am somewhat involved, and I just don't think.
Oh, I completely understand, and I don't blame you. You know, I went to your service on Sunday.
You went to the services this past Sunday?
Yes, I did.
On Sunday?
Yes, this past Sunday.
Did I meet you?
Yes, you welcomed me at the beginning, I believe.
I see. Well, I am not afraid to be controversial or to speak my mind, but that is not necessarily the views of my congregation per se. Now, as I've stated, I am somewhat involved that the girlfriend of one of the accused is a member of my congregation, and one of the accused is visiting. Now, these two young men have forfeited their lives. We've been after the two I mentioned for ages, trying to get them to live right, to do right. Now, I've got one boy on suicide watch, and I am working with him until they strap him in that chair and turn on the juice. I will work for his salvation. Now, I believe that those two boys deserve the death penalty, but I will work for them spiritually.
Right, I understand.
And as for the victim, I hope that as Matthew Shepard laid up there, tied to that fence, that he had a chance to reflect on a moment when someone had spoken the word of the Lord to him, and that as he slipped into a coma, well, he had a chance to reflect on his lifestyle.
Thank you, Reverend. I really appreciate your speaking with me.
It was Thursday night. It was 11:30 p.m. I had just barely gone to bed, and for like 30 minutes, and then Margot, our chief operating officer, called and said, Matthew's blood pressure had begun to drop. Well, let's wait and see. She called me about 10 after. He just died. So I quick got dressed and came in, and I went down to the ICU where the family was, and Judy came up to me and she just put her arms around me. And I put my arms around her, and we just stood there for, honestly, for about 10 minutes. Because what else do you do? And then we got to sit and talk about things that you just... Dennis, it's now public knowledge. And I'm going to go out there now and tell the whole world that this has happened. Because by this point, it was clear to us that it was the world. It was the whole world. So Judy told me what she wanted me to say. And I went out there at 4 o'clock a.m.
Matthew Shepard Medical Update for 4:30 a.m., Monday, October 12th.
At 12, midnight, Monday night, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. We immediately notified the family, who was already at the hospital. At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. His family was already at his bedside. The following is a statement from the family. The family again would like to thank the American public for the overwhelming support for Matthew. The family was grateful that they did not have to make a decision regarding whether or not to continue life support for their son. Like a good son, he was caring to the end and removed guilt or stress from the family. Matthew came into the world premature and left the world premature. Matthew's mother said, "Go home. Give your kids a hug. And don't let a day go by without telling them that you love them." And I don't know how I let that happen. I lost it on national television. But, we've been up for like 72 hours straight, and then gone home, and gone to bed for like 30 minutes, and had to get up and come in. And maybe I was just I don't know, but while I was out there in a moment of complete brain deadness, while I was reading that statement, I thought about my own 4 daughters. Oh, and go home, hug your kids, and she doesn't have her kids anymore. And there I am. And I'm thinking, this is so lame. And then we started to get people sending us letters and emails. And most of them were generally very kind. But I did get this one. This guy wrote to me and said, "Do you cry like a baby on TV for all your patients, or just the facts?" And like I said before, homosexuality is not something with which I agree. But having been thrown into this, I guess I just didn't understand the magnitude in which some people hate. And out of all the letters that we got, there were maybe 2 or 3 that were like that. Most of them were, "Thank you for your caring and compassion for Matthew." And Matthew got caring and compassion from the minute he got here.
I spoke with Doc today about the upcoming trials of Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney, and this is what he had to say. "I'll tell you what, if they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything Matt would be thinking about. Because Matt would not want those 2 to die. He'd want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just like the whole world hoped that Matt would survive. The whole thing, you see, the whole thing rolls around hope. H-O-P-E. The day of the funeral, it was snowing so bad, big, huge, wet snowflakes. And when I got there, there were thousands of people in just black, with umbrellas everywhere. And there were 2 churches, one for the family, invited guests, people of that nature, and then another church for everyone else who wanted to be there. And then still, there were hundreds of people who couldn't fit into either of the churches. And there was a big park outside, and that's where these people were. And this park was full.
The liturgy liturgy today is an Easter liturgy. It finds its meaning in the resurrection. The service invites your full participation. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray.
And it was like the biggest storm that they ever had.
Tiffany Edwards.
Like that anyone had ever known. I mean, trees had fallen down, the power went out for a couple of days. I mean, I thought to myself, it's like the forces of the universe at work, you know? Whatever higher power you believe in that blows storms was blowing this storm.
For our brother Matthew, let us pray to our Lord Jesus Christ, who said, I am the resurrection and the life. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
Lord, you who consoled Martha and Mary in their distress, draw near to us who mourn for Matthew, and dry the tears of those who weep. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
You wept at the grave of Lazarus, your friend. Comfort us in our sorrow. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
You raised the dead to life. Give to our brother eternal life. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
You promised paradise to the thief who repented. Bring our brother the joys of heaven. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
He was nourished in your body.
My most striking memory from the funeral
Harry Drake, Casper Star Tribute.
was seeing the Reverend Fred Velf people from Kansas. That whole scene fell apart.
Do you believe the Bible? Do you believe you're supposed to separate the precious from the vile? You don't believe that part of the Bible? You stand over there ignorant of the fact that the Bible, 2 times for every verse, it talks about God's love, it talks about God's hate.
There were a bunch of high school kids who got out of school early, and they came up to the fence and they were yelling at some of the people in the protest, the Fred Velf people. And there was this one guy that came up, dressed in all leather, big spikes everywhere, just this skinhead. And I thought, oof, this is going to be a really ugly confrontation. But instead, he got up there and he started leading them in Amazing Grace.
This wouldn't be just another murder that the state's going to deal with. The state deals with hundreds of murders every single day. But this murder's different because the fags are bringing us out here trying to turn Matthew Shepard into a poster boy for the gay lifestyle. And we're going to answer it. It's just that simple.
6 months later, the company returned to Laramie for the trial of Russell Henderson, the first of the 2 perpetrators. It was to be a capital murder trial.
Yes, sir.
No problem.
Yep.
Now, can you just imagine hearing that? You know, juror after juror after juror.
You entered a not guilty plea earlier, Mr. Henderson, but I understand you wish to change your plea today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You understand that the recommended sentence here is 2 life sentences.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that those may run concurrently or that they may run consecutively?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Henderson, I'm now going to ask you how you wish to plead today. Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Before the court decides whether the sentences will run concurrent or consecutive, I understand there are statements to be made by at least one individual.
The following is an excerpt from a statement made to the court by Lucy Thompson.
As the grandmother and the person who raised Russell along with my family, our hearts ache for the pain and suffering of the shepherds of Wyoming. Many times throughout the day I have thought about that, and you will continue to be in our hearts, our thoughts, and our prayers as we know your pain and our end. You have shown such mercy in allowing us to have this plea, and we are grateful for the opportunity you have given us to live. Your honor, we as a family hope that as you sentence Russell, you will do it concurrently to life terms. For the Russell that we know and love, your honor, we humbly plead, not to take it completely out of our lives forever.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson, you have a constitutional right to make a statement if you would like to do so. Do you have anything you would like to say?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Mr. and Mrs. Shepherd, there is not a moment that goes by that I don't see what happened that night. I am very sorry for what I did. You have my deepest sympathies. I hope that someday you will be able to find it in your heart to forgive me. Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong. I regret greatly what I did, and I am ready to face the consequences of my actions.
Mr. Henderson, you drove the vehicle that took Matthew Shepard to his death. You bound him to that fence in order that he might be more savagely beaten, and in order that he might not live to tell the tale. You left him out there for 18 hours, knowing full well that he was there. Perhaps having an opportunity to save his life, and you did nothing. This court does not believe you feel any true remorse for your part in this matter. And I wonder whether you fully grasp the gravity of what you've done. The court finds it appropriate, therefore, that sentence be ordered as follows. As to count 3, felony murder and robbery, that you are to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. As to count 1, kidnapping, that you are to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. Sentencing for count 1 to run consecutive to sentencing for count 3.
After the hearing, we heard from Russell Henderson's Mormon homeroom teacher.
I've known Russell's family for 38 years. Russell's only 21, so I've known him his entire life. So I ordained him a priest of the Mormon Church. So when I heard about this, you can imagine disbelief. After the sentencing, the church held a disciplinary council, and the result of that meeting was to excommunicate Russell from the church. And what that means is that your name is taken off the record, so you just disappear. Russell's reaction to that was not positive. It hurt him. And it hurt him too to realize at that point how serious a transgression he had committed. But I will not desert Russell. That is a matter of my religion and my friendship with the family.
Before we left Laramie, we met again with Rebecca Hilliker at the theater department. She's producing Angels in America at the university.
I think that the stance the university has taken is that we have a lot of work to do. We have an obligation to find ways to reach our students. But the question is, how do we move? How do we reach people in a state where there's some very deep-seated hostility towards gays? So this play is the beginning, and guess who's auditioning for the lead?
My parents.
Get back in the shorts.
So, my parents were like, what plays are you doing in school this year? And I told them, Angels in America. And I gave them the whole list of plays. And my mom said, Angels in America, is that that show you did in high school? And I said, yeah. And she said, so, are you gonna audition for it? And I said, yeah. And we got in this huge argument. And the best thing that I knew I had her on was it was just after I'd done a production of Macbeth. And on stage, like, I killed this kid and Lady Macduff and these two other guys. And she just kept saying, well, you know, homosexuality is a sin. She kept saying that. And I just went, Mom, I played a murderer tonight. And you didn't seem to have a problem with that. Look, I tell you, I have never prepared this much for an audition in my life. Never, ever. Not even close.
Not having to deal that much with the gay society here at Laramie.
Detective Sergeant Rob Debris.
Well, once you started to work on the case and actually speaking to people that were gay and finding out what their underlying fears were, then it started to hit home. This is America. You don't have the right to feel that fear. And we're still going to have to deal with the people who hold the old ideals, but I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm not going to listen to it anymore. And if you don't like my views on it, fine. The door goes both ways. I already lost a couple of buddies. I don't care. I feel more comfortable and I can sleep at night.
Well, you're tested every 3 months.
Reggie Flutie.
And I was able to get the DNA test done, so I went up to Fort Collins, they took my blood there, flew it up to Michigan, did the DNA test, and probably a week later I knew I was negative for good.
I tell you, we were all on our knees saying Hail Marys.
You're just so elated.
You know, I'll pay my percentage of tax, whatever nickel a day, to make sure their asses stay in there. And sure as hell never come into my bar again.
I don't believe the death penalty. It's too much for me. I don't believe that one person should be killed as redemption for his having killed another. Two wrongs don't make a right.
How can I protest if the shepherds want McKinney dead? I just can't interfere in that. But on a personal level, I knew Aaron in grade school. We never called him Aaron. He was called AJ. How can we put AJ McKinney? How can we put AJ McKinney to death?
I think right now, our most important teachers must be Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney. They have to be our teachers. What did you learn? What did we do as a society to teach you that? See, I don't think there will be many people that would want them as their teacher. But I think it would be wonderful if the judge said, in addition to your sentence, you must tell your story. You must tell your story.
All rise. The State of Wyoming versus Aaron Jakes McKinney, docket number 6381. The Honorable Judge Martin R. Voigt presiding. The court is now in session.
At the trial of Aaron McKinney, the prosecution played a taped recording of his confession.
My name is Rob Freer, Sergeant for the Sheriff's Department. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and may be used against you in a court of law.
The following is an excerpt of that confession.
Okay. So you guys, you and Chris, you go down to the fireside. So you're at the fireside by yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then where do you go when you leave the fireside?
Some kid said he wanted to ride home.
What did it look like?
Like a queer, such a queer dude.
You looked like a queer?
Yeah, like a fag, you know?
Okay. How'd you meet him?
Kid was drunk. I said, let's just give him a ride home.
When did you and Russ talk about jacking him up?
We kind of talked about it in the bar.
Okay, then what happened?
We drove him out past Walmart, and he started grabbing my leg and grabbing my genitals. I told him, look, I'm not a fucking faggot, you know, don't touch me again, you're gonna get it. I don't know what the hell he was trying to do, but I beat him up pretty bad. I think I killed him.
Who'd you beat him with?
I don't know, blacked out. My fist, my pistol, had a couple beers, trying to figure out what happened to him.
What was the first thing that he said or did in that truck that made you hit him?
Put his hand on my leg, slid his hand like he could have grabbed my balls.
When the defense team argued that McKinney did what he did because Matthew made a pass, and I wanted to vomit. It's like a tweaking defense. When that guy killed Harvey Milk and Bostoni, it's like saying it's okay. It's the same damn thing.
You know, part of me really didn't want them to say it was a gay action or gay panic, but part of me was really glad because I thought they were going to say it was a robbery gone wrong or drugs. So when they said gay panic, I thought, okay, this is good. The truth is going to be told. The truth is going to come out.
Did he try to defend himself against you or hit you back?
Yeah, he tried his little swings or whatever, but they weren't very effective.
How many times did you hit him in the truck before you stopped when you left?
Maybe twice with my fist, 6 times with a gun.
Did he ask you to stop?
Well, yeah, he was getting the shit kicked out.
What did he say?
After he asked me to stop, I was all he was doing was screaming.
So Russ kind of dragged him over to the fence, I'm assuming, and tied him up.
Yeah, I just remember Russ was laughing and they got pretty scared.
Was Matthew conscious when Russ tied him up?
Yeah, Matthew was conscious. I told him not to look at my license plate number because I was afraid he was going to tell the police. So I asked him to read it out loud, and he did. That's when I hit him a couple of times.
Just to be sure.
So
which meant the jury could give him the death penalty. That evening, Judy and Dennis Shepard were approached by McKinney's defense team, who pled for their client's life. The prosecution indicated that they would defer to the family's wishes as to whether or not to pursue the death penalty. The following morning, Dennis Shepard made a statement to the court. Here is some of what he said.
My son Matthew didn't look like a winner. He was rather uncoordinated and wore braces from the age of 13 until the day he died. But in his all too brief life, he proved that he was a winner. On October 6, 1998, my son tried to prove to the world that he could win again. On October 12th, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero lost. On October 12th, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero died. 50 days before his 22nd birthday. My son Matthew officially died in a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado. He actually died on the outskirts of Laramie, tied to a fence. You, Mr. McKinney, with your friend, Mr. Henderson, left him out there by himself. But he wasn't alone. There were his lifelong friends with him, friends that he had grown up with. I suppose you wonder who his friends were. First, he had the beautiful night sky, and the same stars and moon that we used to see through a telescope. And then he had the daylight, and the sun shining. And through it all, he breathed in the scent of the pine trees from the snowy range. And he heard the wind, the ever-present Wyoming wind, for the last time. But he had one more thing with him. He had God. And I feel better knowing that he wasn't alone. Good things have now come from evil. People are saying enough is enough. I miss my son. But I am very proud to be able to say he is my son. Judy has been quoted as being against the death penalty. It was stated that Matthew was against the death penalty. Those statements are wrong. Man thought that certain crimes and incidents justified the death penalty. I too believe in the death penalty. There is nothing I would like better than to see you die, Mr. McKinney. The time has come to begin the healing process. To show mercy to someone who refused to show any mercy. Mr. McKinney, I'm going to grant you life, as hard as it is for me to do so, because of that. And every time you celebrate Christmas or a birthday or the 4th of July, remember that that isn't. And every time you wake up in your prison cell, Remember that you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. You robbed me of something very precious that I will never forget. Mr. McKinney, I give you life in memory of one who no longer lives. May you have a long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it.
Debris and I hugged and cried. We were just so grateful. And then everyone had tears in their eyes, and Mr. Shepherd was crying, and I caught me bawling.
This is all we lived and breathed for a year. Daily. This has been my case daily. Now it's over.
Maybe now we can quit being so stuck.
It finally hit me, walking out of the courthouse, why God wanted me to find him. Because he didn't have to die out there alone. You know, if I hadn't found him, nobody would have found him for weeks. And it made me really glad to know that he didn't have to die alone.
I'm just glad it's over. Really, I am. Testifying in that trial was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And don't get me wrong, I love the stage, really, I do. I love it, but it's tricky. Because basically you have lawyers questioning you from this angle, but the answers need to be funneled this way to the jury. So what you have to do is establish a funneling system. And that's hard for me because I'm a natural conversationalist, so when you talk to somebody, you give eye contact, but it's rough because you have to scoot over and essentially funnel over to the jury. But I was able to do that several times over the course of my testimony.
On our last trip to Laramie, I had the pleasure of seeing Jedediah Schultz play the role of Pryor in Angels in America. After the performance, we spoke. I didn't, for the longest time, let myself get personally involved with the Matthew Shepard thing. It just didn't seem real. Matthew Shepard was just a name instead of an individual. And I don't know, it's weird, man. It's so weird. And I just feel bad, for all the things that I said. That's why I want to hear those interviews from last year, because I can't believe I said all those things, It's so weird, man. I can't believe I said all that stuff about homosexuals. Like, how did I let that make me think that you were different from me?
This is Romaine Patterson.
Well, a year ago I wanted to be a rock star. That was my goal. But now, over the past year, I've really realized my part in taking a role. And so now, instead of going to school for music, I'm going to school for communications and political science, because I have a career in political activism. Actually, I just recently found out I'm going to be honored in Washington, D.C. by the Anti-Defamation League. And whenever I think about the Angels or any of the speaking that I've done, Matthew's guiding me down this path with his little light when we walk down. And every time we get to a door, he opens it and says, okay, next step. And if I get to be a rock star on the side, okay.
This is Jonas Soderbergh.
Change is not an easy thing. And I don't think a lot of people here were up to it. They got what they wanted. Those two boys got what they deserved. Justice has been served. The OK Corral. We shot down the villains. We sent the prostitutes on the train. The town's cleaned up and we don't need to talk about it anymore. It's been almost a guy, and they haven't passed shit in Wyoming. At state level, in town, nobody anywhere has passed any kind of laws. Anti-discrimination laws, hate crime legislation. Nobody has passed anything anywhere. What's coming out of it? What's coming out of this that's concrete or lasting?
We all said we'd meet again, one last time at the fence.
I've been up to that site in my limousine, okay? And I remember the night that he and I drove around together. He told me, Laramie sparkles, doesn't it? And if you sit where he was, exactly where he was, Laramie sparkles from there. With the low lying cloud and the blue lights from the airport all over the city. I mean, it just blows you away. And he was right there in that spot. I remember thinking, the last thing he saw in this world was the sparkling lights.
We've spent the last 2 days packing a year's worth of materials and saying our goodbyes. We made 6 trips to Laramie and interviewed over 200 people. Jen and I cried when we said goodbye.
Marge wished us luck. And when we asked her how Laramie would feel seeing the play about itself, she said,
I think we'd enjoy it. To show us not the hellhole of the earth would be nice, but that is up to how we portray us. And that in turn is up to how Laramie behaves.
And as we were getting off the phone, she said to me,
Now you take care. I love you, honey.
Doc asked me if I wanted to ghostwrite a book about the whole event. Matt Galloway offered me or anyone else a place to stay if and when we come back to Laramie. He also seemed interested as to whether there'd be any open auditions for the play.
We left Laramie at about 7 in the evening. As we drove off, I took one last look in my rearview mirror to catch a glimpse of the town.
I will speak with you, and I will trust that if you make a play of this, that you will say it right. You need to do your best to say it correct.
And as we drove away, I could see the sparkling lights of Laramie, Wyoming.
Do the cast voting.